Hi, my name is Jim Brule. I'm a Maggid, which is a Jewish inspirational storyteller, and I have a story to share with you today, and a story about the story. You see, as a storyteller, one of the things we get to do is research the stories that have been given to us to find out where they came from, which ways they were told, how they might have emerged in different parts of the world or different traditions. And this story is an example, a lovely example of just such a thing. I had a colleague, another storyteller, approach me with the bones of this story, just the little bits of it, to say, have you ever heard of this story? Do you know it? Do you know where it came from? And I didn't. So it was like a treasure, a new story I get to research. It's a sweet little story. And the more I looked at it, the more intrigued I became, because beyond the story itself, there was one Christian pastor who said it was a folk tale of the Mayans. There was another person who said it occurred in the Talmud. Another one who said it was several hundred years later, and then even 1,000 years after that. Where did this story come from? And the more I looked, the more intrigued I became, until I finally found what I'm convinced is the original source of this story, which was in a group of stories written by some rabbis back in the 7th century to try and help people write inspiring sermons at this time of year. And so what I'd like to do is share that story with you, and then a couple of the variations to see which one resonates most deeply with you. Because as you may know, the story I tell may affect two different people in entirely two different ways. And if I twist it just a little, it can affect even more people. So here's the story as I like to tell it now. There once was a king. Now this king had an only son, and he and his son were very close. But as sometimes happened, one time they fell into a terrible, terrible quarrel. And whether the son decided to leave or the father threw him out, however it happened, they parted ways. The son moved out, bitter, angry. Surely he had had enough of this father of his. Now some time passed, and both the son and the father began to feel the real pain of their distance. The son wanted to get back to his father, and the father wanted to bring his son to him. But the father didn't know where the son had gone. So the son approached some of his friends, and he said, I really miss my father. I want to go back, but I don't have the resources. And so the friends got together and they sent a message to the king. And they said, "Oh, Your Highness, your son would like to come back to you, but he's in dire straits. He doesn't think he can make it." And the king sent a message back to the son. And the message said, "Come to me, my son, as far as you can, and I will meet you there." Short, sweet story. But it makes you wonder of all the different ways it could have, and in some cases was told. You see, in one version of the story, it's the father who exiles the son and just throws him out, for reasons we don't come to understand. Likewise, another version has the son storming out against the king's wishes. The third version is the version I told you, where they quarrel. There's more variations. In one case, it's the king, the father, who wants his son to come back. His son doesn't want to have anything to do with him, so the king sends ministers to try to entice him back. Another version, the son wants to come, but he doesn't have the resources, and the king doesn't even know. Closer to what I told you. And there are still other versions. There's one version where he went a very long distance, and so he was lost. Another version where he didn't go hardly any distance at all, but he stayed away for a long time. Shut the door, as you will. So think about it. As we look to this world that's filled with so much trouble, and we look for some support, where do we turn? If we turn to the notion of God or Spirit or Creator, how do we reach that force? And do we have to do all the work ourselves? Or will God meet us as far as we can go? There's an old saying in Buddhism that for every step you take towards the Buddha takes 2 towards you. There's a similar story in Islam where the line is, when you're lost, go out in the field and I'll meet you there. So I invite you to think about, where do you draw your source of strength? And imagine that as something that is actually interested in you and actually loves you and is ready to come and meet you wherever you are. Thanks for listening.